So let's start from basics, right? Uh, what is Bitcoin? What is Bitcoin? That's a very strong question. Bitcoin is money. You know, that's the easiest answer. Bitcoin is money. It's a digital money that you fully own, right? A digital money that you fully own. That is also a peer-to-peer, meaning no middleman, you know, no banks, no government, nobody. You don't need the permission of anybody to own it, buy it, or sell it. It's permissionless. It's borderless. If you are in the cave and you have access to internet, you have access to internet and you're in a cave, you still transact with the outer world. That's how borderless Bitcoin is. It's also you can't also stop someone from using it, right? It's censorship resistance. You can't actually ban someone from using Bitcoin. As far as the person has access to the internet, the person will use Bitcoin. So there can never be more than 21 million Bitcoin, which means no inflation. Nothing like printing more Bitcoin, just as we see with Naira, see this with SEFA, with US dollars, with Euro, with yen, and with other paper currency that you know. And this is why BitFi exists. This is why we exist. To help everyday Africans spend, save, use Bitcoin safely, because at the end of the day, I believe in experiencing your SAT. I believe in experiencing your SATs. All right. So our speaker is back.
I didn't get that. Can you call again?
I said you introduce yourself to the audience. Say hi to everyone.
All right. My name is James Otudor, and I am a pro Bitcoin politician, like you picked earlier. I'm also a Bitcoin advocate and educator. In fact, once I leave here, I will be teaching some people about Bitcoin from Tanzania. Sorry, 1 minute. Let me try to bring down the noise.
All right. While we wait for our speaker, as I was saying, Bitfi is here to help Africans understand the benefits of Bitcoin, because at the end of the day, it's that one tool that gives us a level playing field. Welcome back, James.
Thank you very much. So let me let me go and bring down the noise a bit. Yeah, it's been a hectic day. It's been a crazy day. I'm glad to be here. You know, um, once again, like I said earlier, I'm pro Bitcoin politician. One of the first politicians to have the manifesto and reflect some use Bitcoin to solve some societal issues on their manifesto. I ran for the State House of Assembly for Dupani State constituency in Calabar, Cross River State, and I actually came third. I didn't win anyway. I came third, but it was a good outing, and we plan to go back in 2027 to run again. So that's it briefly. I'm also the founder, president and founder of Calabar Bitcoin Club. And yes, we have been doing amazing in the club. Yeah, thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, thank you for that. Like I said, the person the speaker we have here today is one that is a will. I must say that because it's not easy to be um, a politician in Nigeria and also a Bitcoiner, right? So thank you for that. So going down to the section proper, we are here to discuss Bitcoin in Africa. And the first question I would like to ask you is that when you explain, like when you first explain Bitcoin to people or students or merchants in Calabar, what's that one thing you say that make it click for them? What's like how do you tell them about Bitcoin that make it click for them?
All right, so we do not just teach Bitcoin to students. You know, Calabar Bitcoin Club cuts across a lot of um, um, social strata, in our environment. So we teach Bitcoin to everyone, kids, students, lecturers, working class people, graduates, everyone that should hear about Bitcoin. And because it's a passion for us, it's a passion for us. And the one thing I try to do anytime I'm talking to somebody about Bitcoin is I try to make Bitcoin, Bitcoin is money, remember, and everybody will use money at one point of their lives. I mean, one of the things you can give to a kid to make the kid smile is money, right? Remember when we were small and you're crying, your uncle or auntie, your friend will give you um, 10 naira, 20 naira. That was some good money back then. I mean, with 10 naira, you could buy maybe 10 sweets, and all of that. So I always relate with people in ways Bitcoin, relates with them, or sorry, in ways money relates with them. If you are a civil servant, one of the things that I know you would pay attention to is when you want to retire, right? You want to retire having money. And when I meet you and I tell you that Bitcoin can help you, can protect your retirement, they would always want to listen. Um, right now, if I meet a student and I want to talk about Bitcoin to the students, every young person who is a student is always thinking about their future. They're thinking about the next 10 years, the next 15 years, the next 20 years. So I approach them with how can this secure and protect that future that they want for the next 10, 20, 30, 40 years. That's how we approach students about Bitcoin.
Yeah, that's amazing. Uh, that's amazing. Talk about keeping it simple. I don't know, but it's as if there is a sharp noise coming from your background, but it has kind of stopped now. So I guess I'll move ahead. So let's be real, just like you said, many people do, ask me some questions, and it goes like, why do I think Nigeria or Africa needs Bitcoin? You know, but if we look at Nigeria today, and we'll see that inflation is over 30% on the news. If you enter the markets, you see that it's a different ball game entirely. You know, um, so if you have saved like 100,000 last year, it's worth 70K now on average. And for our brothers in Ghana, the CDs have dropped more than 50% in 2 years. We've seen bank restrictions, we've seen high transfer fees, we've seen dollar scarcity. We live this reality every day in this part of our life. And I know Bitcoin is the solution because it's borderless, censorship resistant, and inflation proof. So, James, I know that you talk to policymakers about Bitcoin. What do you think is the biggest mistake governments make when dealing with money problems in Africa? And how can Bitcoin fix that?
I think one of the biggest mistakes our politicians make is, can you hear me? All right. So I think one of the biggest mistakes our politicians make, when it comes to money, is thinking that money should be controlled only by the government. I can bet you that a lot of our politicians don't even understand the history of money and how money is so crucial to an individual. That's one. Two, I also believe that a lot of our politicians are so corrupt and so greedy, right? So, the fiat system pays a greedy politician. Yeah, the fiat system pays a greedy politician because they have the ability to print endlessly, and since they are closest to the printers, they can always benefit from printing endless money, endless fiat, right? But Bitcoin doesn't allow you to print endlessly. If you want to accumulate so much Bitcoin from mining, you would have to spend so much resource to mine, right? So Bitcoin itself, right, doesn't allow them to be corrupt, doesn't allow them to, to that Catalan effect is not in Bitcoin, right? It's the reverse of what happens in the fiat system. So for a typical African politician, that believes that government is the only source of their only source of income. Government should be their only source of income. People's taxes are their personal money. I don't allow any politician to rule over me because I'll let you know I pay your fees, I pay your salary, I pay the car you're driving is because of me. Because we are the ones that pay the taxes, right? We are the ones that pay the taxes. So, but in Bitcoin, everyone is measured by the same rules. The rules are not favored. Bitcoin doesn't favor people that look rich over people that look poor. Bitcoin rules doesn't favor people that are politicians over citizens. So yes.
If you say that Bitcoin gives a level playing field, to everyone, it does not favor one person and leave the other person. Are you trying to say that if I have more Bitcoin than someone, I don't have like an advantage more than the person in the ecosystem?
Oh no, 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 no. Look, if you have more Bitcoin than someone, it simply means that that is the result of your hard work, right? You probably didn't earn more Bitcoin because Bitcoin doesn't favor you because you have more fiat. Do you get? So Elon Musk cannot buy the entire Bitcoin in the world, no matter how much Elon Musk switch in fiat. He just can't buy the entire Bitcoin in the world right now. So
This
everybody
statement,
will get into
this
Bitcoin.
statement
Yeah,
that
I'm
you
with you.
make now, many people does not understand it because I would like if you go deep into the part where you say Elon Musk cannot buy all Bitcoin. Why do you think Elon Musk cannot buy all Bitcoin? And what is that thing that makes it impossible for Elon Musk to buy all the Bitcoin?
So if you remember, Bitcoin is ruled by demand and supply. The price of Bitcoin is determined by demand and supply. Now, if there's so much demand on a lesser supply, right, it will always trigger the prices up, right? Now, Elon Musk being the richest person in the world, 340, approximately 300 and over $300 billion, right? Now, if Elon Musk uses all his wealth, over $300 billion, to chase Bitcoin, the moment he starts buying, the supply, remember, Bitcoin supply is capped and fixed at 21 million. So far, 19.7 million has been mined and is in circulation. First of all, you do not know who owns Bitcoin, right? Today I was on a call with somebody, and he was telling me that he's in the northern part of Nigeria, and he was telling me he has met several people from the northern part of Nigeria, several Fulanis and Hausas that have 50 Bitcoin in their wallet, 20 Bitcoin in their wallet, and these guys are not, and they're not on the internet, they're not online, they're not anywhere, right? So how does Elon Musk buy Bitcoin off people? Right? It's not
Yeah.
possible for him to buy all the Bitcoin, right? So the moment he starts
Yeah.
buying Bitcoin, but the moment he starts purchasing in numbers, it will trigger the price up because the demand will be more than the supply. And once that keeps happening, the prices will keep going up till he will not be able to afford to buy more Bitcoin as the demand, as more demand is hitting the supply. So it's literally impossible for Elon Musk to buy the entire Bitcoin in the world. A lot of people own Bitcoin, but nobody knows who they are. Their Bitcoin is in cold storage. There's no manner of way you can manipulate them to bring their Bitcoin to the market. They would only come to the market when they decide to sell. And that's the only time Bitcoin can be available. So yes, okay, let me rephrase my statement. Elon Musk may be able to buy all the Bitcoin in the world, but he may need to wait until he is dead because nobody may decide. People may decide not to sell, right?
Which is definitely true because at the end of the day, um, how do you want to convince BlackRock to sell you their Bitcoin? How do you want to convince people to sell you their Bitcoin?
Yeah, how
This
do you
is
convince Black iBits, to sell people's Bitcoin to you because it's not even their Bitcoin, right?
yeah,
How do you come?
exactly.
So it's practically impossible for Elon Musk to buy the entire Bitcoin in the world. It's practically impossible for Michael Saylor to buy the entire Bitcoin in the world because Michael Saylor is only rushing to buy as much as he can right now because he knows that as time goes, Bitcoin becomes more and more scarce. How would now remember Michael Saylor has told us that he's never going to sell.
Yes, yes, he
So
did.
how does Elon
He
Musk buy
did.
what Michael Saylor is holding right now?
The guy is even, he said that if he can buy the top always, because he has always bought the top, that should let you know that he's not joking around with this Bitcoin. you know. So I believe what Michael Saylor is doing is to get at least 1 million Bitcoin and maybe slow down. That's if he's going to do that at all. But you've given valid points, right? Because at the end of the day, Bitcoin is driven by demand and supply. And the fact that we have 21 million, and inside that 21 million, we have like 4 million that we've lost forever, more than 4 million that we've lost forever. So let's say we have 19 million, right? So, no, 17 million total, and we have like um, over a million to go, right? So if you look at all these numbers, you see that stats, and the future is in favor of Bitcoin, right? Because because at the end of the day, at the at the end of the day, it
Can you
is
hear me? Sorry for
limited.
cutting you. Do you know that the amount of Bitcoin on exchanges has gone down?
Yeah,
We
I
have
saw I
less than
saw
1
that
million
news.
Bitcoin on exchanges. So 18 point something million Bitcoin are directly in people's wallets and in people's hands. People that we may never ever get to track, people that you may never ever get to know. That's
Yeah,
the
and you
power
know
of
what?
Bitcoin, and that's why Bitcoin was created.
Yeah, and you know one thing about Bitcoin again is that if I should tell you that I don't have Bitcoin, I don't have it. You know, the only way you can verify, is, let's say, if I should have any on centralized exchange. But if I should have all my wallets in self custody, I will tell you I don't have Bitcoin and I don't have Bitcoin. Right? So it is beautiful to see. But another thing I would like you to touch that is also a misconception for people is uh, government being able to ban Bitcoin, right? Can government decide that everybody should not use Bitcoin? You know, is that possible?
Now, if you hold Bitcoin in self custody, if you hold Bitcoin in self custody, nobody can decide what you do with your Bitcoin. So power is back in your hands. If you hold Bitcoin in custody, in people's custody, what I mean is, if you hold Bitcoin, you know, with on exchanges, Binance Exchange, Bybit, and all of that, not trying to advertise for them, government can control how you use and spend that Bitcoin because they have been KYC. So Bitcoin gives you that alternative. So you can choose to hold in custody, you can choose not to hold in custody, right? In self custody. Now, if you hold Bitcoin in your hardware wallet, in your custodial wallet, in your self custodial wallet, then you are a sovereign person. You have gained what we call financial sovereignty, money sovereignty. Nobody can determine how and when, where and why you should spend your Bitcoin.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. And they are all valid points because at the end of the day, like you said, if your Bitcoin is in self custody, nobody can take it from you. You don't have it, you don't have it, right? Uh, so that's nice. Thank you for dropping all those valid points, right? So I'll be asking everyone that's watching us, wherever you're watching us from, kindly share the link so that others will join in and get in and join in on the discussion. You know, so I'll be asking again, which eats you hardest, right? Drop it in the chat box. Is it inflation that eats you the hardest? When you go to buy something today and you go back tomorrow, it has increased the price. Or is it high bank fee? When you want to send money from your OPay or from your Zenith bank to another bank, is it the fee that they charge you that eats you the most? Or is it if you want when you want to send money abroad or receive money abroad, right? Which one eats you the most? Type it in the chat box. And the reason why I ask this question is because Bitcoin here is the solution to all these things that I just mentioned, right? And Bitcoin isn't just a theory, right? It's not a theory at all. Africans are using it every day, right? Students, as you saving Bitcoin to pay for their school fees, right? And to pay for their courses, right? And to also receive money from their parents here in Africa, right? Freelancers, receive Bitcoin as payments, because one of the problems freelancers do get is how to receive money from someone they work for that's not in the same continent with them. So if you're a freelancer and you're in Nigeria or you're in Kenya or Accra and you did a business with someone that's in outside Africa, let's say Asia, for example, there will be a problem. You start thinking about Western Union or PayPal, even if that is if PayPal is going to work, right? But with Bitcoin, you can accept your payments easily. Merchants now accept Bitcoin. For example, an eatery in Oka here in Anambra State accepts Bitcoin. Other merchants in Calabar, which is also a secular economy, they accept Bitcoin. So these people already understand what Bitcoin is, and we'll be doing more of this to explain more about Bitcoin. So James, can you kindly share one story from Calabar of a person or a business whose life changed after adopting Bitcoin? I know you have few stories about that, so can you just share one?
Oh, there are lots of stories we could share actually. However, um, we have one merchant called Chef Green, okay, and Chef Green sells a signature delicacy, a Calabar signature delicacy called Ekpan Kuko, and some other foods, right?
Sorry to cut you. Apologies. So if you don't know a pankoko, right? The last time I went to Calabar, I was introduced to that delicacy and I tasted it. Bro, trust me, I had to go back the following day to get more because wow, like it was so delicious, right? So you can continue. I just had to let them know that this is a very delicious food.
Yes, so I'm going to make it very brief because I have to run along. Chef Green, we had known about Bitcoin, and but didn't understand what Bitcoin was all about and all of that kind of stuff, right? So we met one day, I think at the middle of the night, around 12 a.m., right? And we spoke and we told him about Bitcoin and what Calabar Bitcoin Club was doing. And fast forward to now, I think you guys started, you have bought Ekman with Bitcoin from Chef Green. You have so Malik, so many people have, they come around, they buy food using paying with Bitcoin. And this is what happened. Chef had always been interested in how he will be able to afford to buy more Bitcoin. Because the race now is how much Bitcoin can we accumulate, right? So Chef Green was more interested in how can I accumulate Bitcoin? How can I accumulate Bitcoin? And by the time I told him, like, look, you don't need to worry yourself on that. You can sell a service, you can sell a product, you can sell goods to accumulate Bitcoin without having to change your lifestyle, without having to stress your head. And boom, dude went ahead and was was doing that, and it's a beautiful story today. And I think it would be right to even allow him to talk about his story actually. But so far, so good. Between then and now, this guy has been consistent. This guy preaches Calabar Bitcoin more than I even do. Sometimes I'll be like, oh my God, chef again. But that is what
Yeah,
Bitcoin does.
the
Once you're hooked,
phase is in now is we all went through that phase, right? Because when I was in that phase, what I did was to start writing about Bitcoin on LinkedIn because when you catch the rema of Bitcoin, it will be as if you've been missing out, right? It will be as if you've been missing out. So you want to make up the time you wasted not understanding Bitcoin. I believe that's what is happening to him now. He has caught the rema of Bitcoin.
yes, you're correct. So we have so many stories. I mean, there's this one on campus where some of our volunteers spent Bitcoin with. Man, this woman has been stacking. The last time I visited, I'm like, what? This woman has been stacking through selling, She just sells small provision shop, biscuits, drinks, and stuff like that. And rather than take that profit, in naira, she keeps it in Bitcoin. And guess what? They've already seen over 20% in profit from just holding Bitcoin in less than 3 months. I mean, I'm yet to see any bank that will give you over 20% in interest or in value in 3 months. I'm yet to see any bank like that or any
you won't get
financial
it. You won't
instrument.
get it in 20 years. You won't get 20% from banks in 20 years. Trust me. Because even if you look at the percentage that is going to be 20 years, when you calculate all the charges, when you factor all of that in, you see that you still be at loss. So
Yes,
that's
brother. Yes, you're correct.
I know that there are a lot of stories to tell us about uh, your on ground work that you are doing in Calabar, and I know that I also know who Chef Green is because I patronized him when I was in Calabar and I also paid with Bitcoin. And one thing is that aside from the fact that the food is very, very delicious, it tasted more better, realizing that I actually bought this delicious food with Bitcoin, right? It gives. You're muted, oh. I cannot hear you if you're talking.
Are you sure your wallet agrees with you?
Ooh.
Are you sure your Bitcoin wallet agrees with you?
Well, the amount of sats you're going to spend to actually buy ekpankukwo, it's not gonna hurt, right? Except
But
maybe,
did you notice something? The first time you bought, I think we paid about 3,000 plus cents. And
yeah,
then by the time we went back again, by the time we were leaving, the last time we went to buy, we paid about 2,000 something cents. And I can
yeah,
tell you
yeah,
right now that egg bank now is it's about less than 2,500 cents. Which means
imagine.
that the more you keep going, the more Bitcoin gets more valuable. A time will come, you will buy the
Oh,
same quantity of egg bank for 100 sats, 200 sats, and it look like magic.
yeah, yeah. And that's just inflation and deflation in play over there, fiat currency, our naira is inflationary in nature because they print it to oblivion, while Bitcoin is deflationary in nature. So, what I mean by that is that if when you earn and spend Bitcoin like me, like James, uh, because we use our skill in the Bitcoin ecosystem and earn Bitcoin, which is why when we talk about spending Bitcoin, it is easy for us, right? But at the end of the day, yeah, if you're a merchant or you're a business owner, the best way for you to get ends or this on Bitcoin easy is to accept it, you know, because I am sure aside from what you said about people having Bitcoin and you not even knowing them and they don't even show on the radar, right? Our people actually have Bitcoin here in Nigeria, but the fact that Bitcoin is a sound but silent money, I don't know if you get what I mean. You know, it's if I tell you that I have Bitcoin, that you know that I have Bitcoin. There's no way you can go and verify it behind the scene, right? Thank you for sharing those points. Yeah. So, who has ever tried sending money across Africa, and what has been your experience? Kindly type it in the chat box. I want to see what we've gone through trying to send money in and out of Africa because I know how painful that is, right? But when you use Bitcoin, you see that it's as easy as ABC. So now I want to talk about wallet. I want us to talk about wallet self custody. So here's where most beginners get stuck: wallets and safety. And the rule number one in the Bitcoin ecosystem is that not your key, not your coin. And there are two types of wallets. We have custodial wallets where someone else controls your Bitcoin. It is easier to open, but it is less secured because that company can fold, right? And non-custodial wallet is you control your key. You control your key, right? So, James, the last question before you go, because I know that you have another section now. What's the biggest security mistake you've seen newbies make with Bitcoin, and how do you teach them to avoid it?
So what's this? What's the biggest mistake? What?
The biggest mistake you've seen newbies make, or the mistake you made with Bitcoin coming into the ecosystem, and what will you advise a newbie about such mistakes so they don't experience it too?
Personally, I think one of the biggest mistakes that newbies make, and I think I almost made that mistake, was thinking that Bitcoin was a get rich quick scheme, right? And in thinking that Bitcoin is a get rich quick scheme, you would fall prey to alternative, like the way they would call it, altcoins. But they're all shit coins, bro.
Yeah,
They're
they are
all shit
shitcoin.
coins. They're all
I don't
shit
know.
coins, scam
I don't.
coins,
I don't.
whatever you want
I
to
don't
call
know
them.
why. I don't know why you were painting it and you were calling it altcoins. They are shitcoin, bro.
No, no, no. I'm trying to be direct here. So altcoin, right? They will call it altcoin. Their favorite Igulos will say they are altcoins. They'll say they are utility coins. They are blah 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 blah. Bro, they are all shit coins. Now, this is not to condescend down on the developers of this project, right? Because smart guys, great guys, and all of that. But the project itself is built in a web of scam, in the same web that Bitcoiners are preaching against, in the same web that you are complaining against, right? While you're complaining against the government, in the fiat thing, in the fiat world, the developers build your altcoin and they bring what happens in the government to the altcoin. What the heck is tokenomics? What the heck is all those bullshit? You have coins come and they tell it it's for marketing, it's for this, it's for that, and all that kind of bullshit. Look, Bitcoin has no second best, right? There's nothing like alternate coin. If you want to escape poverty, if you want to escape devaluation, if you want to escape this bullshit that is happening in terms of money right now in the world, Bitcoin is your best bet. So when you come into the ecosystem, the next thing you should do when you come into the ecosystem is to sorry, I lost my power in a bit. Next, I lost it again. So the next thing you should do, when you come into the ecosystem, is to make sure that you go down the rabbit hole. Go down the rabbit hole means that you should do your own research. Do as much research as you can do. Make sure that you do not allow, don't know Bitcoin just for what people have told you about it. Read, research, ask questions, go out there, don't be shy. Bitcoin is one of the best communities that I've ever found out there because everyone is willing and ready to make sure that you learn about Bitcoin and you know something about Bitcoin. Okay, so that's some of the mistakes that these guys make, and I also almost made
Yeah,
that
thank
mistake.
you
I
for
learned
that
very hard, but
submission.
we thank God.
Thank you for that submission. And we really appreciate the fact that you just me too. I've also lost power here. This is my light actually working right now. So that is to show you that we are in it together, bro. Thank you for dropping in, James. We really appreciate you because we know at the end of the day you have a tight schedule, and you also have another class that you will be joining in right now, right? So, um, as we said, Bitcoin is a very, very important part of our life. If you are in Africa and you can't afford not to be involved. You cannot afford not to be involved. Education is the key. Knowledge is power. Without education, people fall for scams or buy the wrong thing. That's why Bit5 focuses on teaching first. We want you to know first, right? You need to know what it is before you be able to take advantage of it, right? So start with learning, not chasing quick profit. Remember what our speaker said when he was coming into the ecosystem, he thought that Bitcoin is a get rich quick scheme, right? He thought that Bitcoin is a get rich quick scheme, but Bitcoin is not. It's not about timing the market. It is not about timing the market. It is about your time in the market. How long did you spend holding Bitcoin? Right? How long did you spend holding Bitcoin? You know, whenever I tell some people to hold Bitcoin for at least 5 to 10 years, they are like 5 to 10 years. Why would I hold it for 5 to 10 years? Because it is the future. It is the future. We have just 1 to 4% of the world population holding Bitcoin right now. And the price is over 118,000 the last time I checked. Less than 5% of the world population is holding Bitcoin. So imagine what the price will be when the population of people that own Bitcoin gets to 7%, or when it gets to 10%, or let's say when it gets to 20% or 30% of the world population holding Bitcoin. Just imagine what the price will be, right? So all these things are the reason why here at Bit5 we make sure that we understand what we are talking about, and we want you to learn it first, to learn it and understand it now. So thank you guys for joining in, and we will be doing this every month. You guys will be seeing us here. We will be bringing top Bitcoiners around Africa and around the globe to talk about Bitcoin. Thank you everyone for tuning in, and special thanks to our speaker James Otudor for sharing powerful insights, thought-provoking answers to the questions, and also giving us real life examples on ground there in Calabar and also in Anambra State, right? So all these things are for you to know that Bitcoin is no longer a theory. It is happening, right? It is happening. Share this section with a friend, and I'll see you in the Bit5 community. Let's build the future of money in Africa together.